Alright, so it seems that I suck at shooting videos, so we're going to take this from the top one more time. This time I'm going to try and keep everything in focus. Thank you, Nicodemus, for pointing that out. And I'm also going to answer a couple of questions that were posed on the first upload of this video. This is my Vavor 5 kilowatt diesel heater. My plan is to install this. I'm going to do a time-lapse video of the installation when I get to that point. Reason for the time-lapse is I've got a lot of stuff going on. It's going to be over the period of several hours of me pulling the old furnace out of here and putting a diesel heater in. For those of you who don't know, I have been living in an RV. And, well, last winter when I moved into it, well, the tail end of last winter, I was running a propane furnace, which, wasn't exactly the most economical route. Now, I've spoke to some people in Canada, Alaska, and even across the pond who actually use this brand and pretty much gave me a pretty good endorsement on it. Let's talk about efficiency. The propane furnace running off of two 20-pound propane tanks. For those of you who are confused on sizes, a 20-pound tank is the one you're going to find typically on your barbecue out in your backyard. They make bigger ones, but that's all I'm equipped with. Those two tanks would last me approximately 3 days. Now, let's talk finances for the 2024 year. Each one of those tanks at a place that refills, not exchanges. The prices vary depending on where you go. Usually $16 per cylinder to $22 per cylinder. Will get you filled back up. That being said, I'm bringing two cylinders in at a time, and the place I've been going to, it's $32 for both of them to get filled. $32 every 3 days gets quite costly. Whereas this, which is diesel, I was told over the same period of time, 3 days, this thing will consume approximately 2 gallons. And here it is, August 2024. A gallon of diesel is round about $4 a gallon. It doesn't take a rocket surgeon to figure out that I'm going to be saving a butt ton of money. I was asked about the output of this. As far as I could tell, through the research that I've done over the years, this puts out about 17,000 BTUs. The average camper air conditioning unit produces 13,000, so we're roughly 4,000 BTUs, heavy, which is great. Obviously, the higher the BTU count, the quicker it's going to warm up a room. This particular camper, you're looking 24.5 foot by 8 foot wide. So it's not very huge. So this should work out just fine. Especially with some of the modifications I plan on doing here in the near future. I want to make some clamps to put plexiglass over the windows on the inside so that my windows now are double pane. There's no sense in opening them in the wintertime. So that'll help keep some of the heat in here. The insulate value of this camper is pretty good for its age. I mean, it's 40 years old. The only thing I would do is probably add some 14 by 14 insulation squares. They make them every day. You can get them at the camping stores or even online, and they fit right in the holes for your ceiling vents. Anyways, I digress. Installation of this unit. Let's go over what came in the box and what I'm going to do differently. Okay. Obviously, you've got your diesel heater. There's your tank. Of course, it's not in Freedom units, it's in liters. 10 liters is roughly what, 2 gallons? Anybody? I did write that on there. That didn't come from the factory that way. Just in case somebody else decides to try and do me a favor, I do not want to have a mixture of gasoline and diesel. That would just ruin this. So, what do we have? The heater itself has 4 of these mounting screws. 2 here, 2 on the anterior. This little nipple here is where your fuel line is for your diesel fuel. Okay, let me put that on there again real quick. I don't want dust getting in here while it's sitting. Fresh air inlet, exhaust. Okay. Now, this fresh air inlet is only for the combustion. This is not the air that's actually going to get blown into the living quarters. That's on this end here. Inside the cabin, you've got this. If you notice, there's a screen mesh on here. It's not like your furnace filter, okay? It's not going to, filter out a whole lot of particulate matter, but that's going to keep dust bunnies and mice and shit like that from getting in there. Then obviously you have your output side. Let's move the gas tank once. Okay. Your outlet side here would then get this tube. This black tube goes on here like that. And then it seals with a hose clamp. On the other end of the tube, you could put this vent. Okay. And this vent does pivot. I can't do it one-handed holding a camera. Well, maybe. No, it's a little snug, but this does spin 360 degrees. So when it's mounted to the wall, you can see that you can point it up, down, back, forward, whatever you want to do with it. My intention is to actually remove the furnace from the camper and retain the ductwork, which is also the same size as this aluminum ducting here. And then just have this blowing hot air through the whole place. That'll also help me out in the long run by reducing the weight of the camper. This is about 15 pounds. The furnace is probably 100 pounds. So that'll actually free up some weight for cargo and what have you. This is your fresh air inlet pipe for the combustion. If you notice this big canister on the end, there's a screen in there. It's kind of like an air filter on your car or truck. All that does is just keeps road grime and insects and crap from getting into the combustion chamber. Your exhaust, this one came with it. It's a little short, but all it is 1-inch tube. Just like this and just like that, they get held on with hose clamps. You've got a muffler that goes on the end. There is a right and a wrong way to install this. If you can see down here, there's a weep hole. That needs to be pointing straight down. Just like your car, when it's idling, you'll notice some drips of water coming out of the muffler, either at the end of the tailpipe or even at the muffler itself. You'll see a little, pinhole that they allow moisture to come out. If you don't have that, you're going to rot this muffler out and it's going to be quite noisy in operation. This is your fuel line. This came with it. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to use this or not. Like I said, I've been researching this, and I've been seeing mixed reviews on the fuel delivery line. So I might actually go to the Tractor Supply or somewhere and get some better stuff. They also included a fuel filter. I would recommend getting you a couple more. You can pick them up at any auto parts store. And change them often. I would say every year. That way you're not putting anything that could possibly get into this tank into your system. Now, the only thing you don't see on this table is a syringe. What you're going to do with this syringe is you're going to take and fill this fuel line up with the syringe. You want to fill the line, the filter, all the way up to the pump So that way when you turn this on, you're not burning up this pump as it's trying to suck fuel from one end of the camper to the other or wherever it's going. This is your mounting plate. I'll explain that in just a second. This is your electrical. Okay. There's a few connections on here. You got your main connection. This goes to the actual heater. There's a connection here. This is actually kind of cool. This is a Bosch style plug you'd find on fuel injectors. And then you got a little bitty connector over here that goes to your thermostat. Thermostat, which is this guy right here, it's got buttons. It's even got an audible alarm if something goes wrong. I believe this is touchscreen. I can't remember. But anyways, you could control the heat, set it to whatever temperature you want. You could program it to come on and off at different times. If there's ever a problem with the heater itself, it'll display it. And then you can just look in your owner's manual. Oh, this is the trouble code. This is what I got to do to fix it. There's a wireless remote. Okay. Focus, stupid. Maybe I can't. It's a little dark in here. Anyways, down below you got on, off, plus, minus. Basically all that does is, adjust the temperature, turns the heater on and off. This was never really designed to be put into a camper or RV. Weber's intentions for this was to mount this into a vehicle. That's why you got this flat piece of galvanized here. It's going to get bolted right down to a piece of tin. Okay, or not tin, but, your stamped steel body. All right? And the idea is, if you're living in an Arctic climate, we'll say Canada. All right? It's cold. You could always reach over, hit this button. This turns on, defrosts your car, heats your car. So all you got to do is run from your house to the car. It's warm and ready to go. Also, if you got kids, I've seen these mounted in agricultural tractors, tractors like you see on the farm, especially ones with cabins on them. You get closer to September, October, especially in the northern United States or even north of the border in Canada, it gets cold. And, you want to be a little more comfortable while you're working. Semi-trucks have similar ones of these mounted in their sleeper. I've seen S-Bar heaters is one of them, but those are about a $2,000 version of one of these. These are you can get in springtime for about $100 on Amazon. Right now, you're about $126. And this one, is like for this particular model, the 5 kilowatt model is like their flagship. It comes, like I said, with the digital, thermostat, wireless remote, and it even has an Apple and Android app, which really I don't care to use. I don't need any more crap on my phone, but it's available to you. So I've talked about changing this out. Now, here's another modification that I'm going to be doing for the installation of this unit. Let's move some stuff so you can see what I've got here. This is a 6-inch duct cap, okay? You pick this up at any hardware store, for example, you got round duct in your house, you could put this on the end of it if you're not using, a certain segment of that ductwork in your home or your office or whatever. I'm using this as a mounting plate, okay? That's why you see I have it traced out, the inlet, exhaust. This little hole right here, or this little slot, that's so I could pass the wires down to the fuel pump, okay? You can see right here I've got a hole marked for the fuel inlet, and then obviously the 4 holes for bolting this guy down. All right. So what you're going to need is a 6-inch hole saw. You're going to cut your hole, and when you take that, take the hole saw out, you're probably going to bring with you not just 2 pieces of wood, but fiberglass insulation. Because on a camper, you've got the wooden floor you're standing on, and then underneath, you're going to have another layer of plywood, or on some of these newer units, which they're cutting corners and trying to save money, they'll just put like a layer of plastic to hold the insulation up against the floor. So what I want to do is create a fire break. So picture, if you will, this flange being the top of the floor. This little gap area here is going to be where your insulation is, and then obviously somewhere down here, like at the bottom of this, would be your, the second layer of wood. Obviously, if the gap is longer, you might want to get another 6-inch piece of ductwork, plug that onto here, maybe attach it with a couple of rivets, kind of like how I have these rivets here, okay? And then you just want that to extend maybe no more than a 1/4 inch down past that lower wood underneath the belly of the RV. What this will do is the outside of the steel will hold all the insulation back so it doesn't fall out, and it'll keep the insulation off of the hot exhaust that'll be coming out. When this tube is on, this tube's going to get hot. You don't want any kind of heat contacting dry wood like your floor, and you don't want the heat touching insulation. So this is basically a thermal barrier, and it's going to be there for safety. So what you're going to do, you cut your hole, and then you're going to lay a good thick bead of silicone around this lip, okay? So that way when you put this down in the hole, it seals up, it keeps any moisture out, any insects out. It'll make it so no cold air comes, drafts back in. Then you set this guy on there like this, and you still use these 4 holes to tie this to the floor. So what you're going to do is, when this thing's upside down, right, is this and this will now be up against the bottom of your heater, okay? Let me see if I can't. I've got an assistant here watching out the window, making sure nobody comes and robs me, I guess. Anyways, this guy will be like that, okay? And then this guy on here like this, okay? So you can still see the 4 mounting holes. You're going to want to assemble this up here, okay, upside down. So you're going to put, you put your exhaust on here, okay, and then you're going to put your intake on, okay, right here. Then you're going to want to feed your wires through, pull everything through this, and then you're going to drop everything through the hole. It's the only way it's going to work. Then bolt it down permanent. What I would do just for giggles is just put some silicone all over the base of this and then smash it down to the floor just to give you that extra little bit of protection. As you can see, Weaver did put a silicone seal here to kind of keep crap out as well for vehicles that have a steel floor. So that's that. There's a bag of hardware, which includes a fuel pump mount, hose clamps, and wire ties, all that other fun stuff. And yeah, the only thing I would do differently on this is a 25 amp fuse in this holder, okay? Well, that's not exactly very weatherproof. So what I'm going to do is cut that out and relocate this fuse closer to the heater so I can handle that inside the vehicle. And then when you do run your power, go with a heavier wire than what they supplied. When you pull amps over distance, wire adds resistance. So when you go, for me, from the tongue of my trailer to where the furnace is probably, 18 feet or so. I think I'll be all right. But that 18 feet, that's a lot. That could be a lot of resistance. So I'm thinking, just for safety's sake, run a heavier wire so that way, one, my wire doesn't heat up while this thing is running, because when you're running any kind of electrical circuit, you'll notice that the temperature of the wire will elevate a little bit. And two, I'm making sure that this thing gets exactly how many amps it needs to function. Be sure when you make wires or you join wires together, you're using heat shrink, so that way you're not allowing any moisture or contaminants to get into the wire and cause it to corrode and fail prematurely. Like I said earlier in this video, I will be doing another video or a series of videos of me installing this, so that way if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can see how it goes when it all gets put together. Hopefully now you actually were able to see everything. You know, I'm gonna re-upload this video now. Oh, and one other thing. This is like I said, this is that plastic fuel tank. They don't drill these holes through. You can actually see they're actually solid on the back side. And then the other thing is they give you a spot to drill a hole for the fuel line nipple, but they didn't put one there, so you got to put one there. It comes in the kit. No big deal, but this guy is not going to be hanging around very long. It's plastic. We all know what happens to plastic in the cold and out in the sunlight. It'll become brittle. It's going to fail. So I'm going to go down to the local hot rod shop and actually get maybe like a 5-gallon or 10-gallon, spun aluminum tank, and then mount that to the tongue of my trailer. So that way I'm not out every couple of days refilling. I think I'd get away with a 5-gallon and then every Friday just refill it. And then maybe carry a jerry can with extra fuel just in case, especially if I'm out boondocking. So there you have it, kids. The 5-kilowatt Vevor diesel heater. Stay tuned for the installation.